What's up there, boys?
Today we are talking about my least favourite Manchester City player. Are any of you shocked that he's my least favourite Manchester City player? No, because I make it abundantly clear every time I talk about Manchester City or England. Yep, as you've seen by the title and the thumbnail, we're talking about why Kyle Walker is the worst captain in the Premier League. And you're going to be like, Nathan, didn't you make a video already about how Kyle Walker is overrated? And yes, I did. 8 months ago, or around about that time, I talked about how I think that Walker is an overrated footballer. But today, we will be talking about his footballing ability, but we'll also be talking about his leadership qualities and like trying to work out why Man City and Pep Guardiola thought it was a good idea to make this guy the club captain. Because I can tell you what, like, Pep's not usually wrong on many things, but this is one decision that he got awfully wrong. But before we go any further, please do like the video if you enjoyed and comment down below your thoughts on Kyle Walker, whether you think he's a good footballer, a bad footballer, a good captain, a bad captain. I'll make sure to respond to all of you in the comments because I do like getting a discussion going down there. And obviously subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've recently hit 400 subscribers and I think we should keep pushing to try hit 500 subscribers by the end of the year. Your support is very much appreciated, and as long as you guys keep supporting the channel, I will keep pushing out content to you. And if this is the first video of mine you are watching, please do check out the rest of the videos on the channel by clicking the channel button down below. Obviously, there's plenty of videos for you to go and watch on there, and they might even further encourage you to subscribe to the channel. But with all that being said, let's talk about Kyle Walker. So, we will rehash some of the points I made in that other video about his footballing ability, right? And we'll start with the positives. We'll start positively. We'll start with the pros to his game, right? He's an excellent athlete. He's a superb athlete. He's got such good qualities. He's fast, which obviously means his recovery pace is phenomenal, and he's also really, really strong. So he's got these good physical attributes which make him a powerful athlete and a powerful runner. And obviously, unfortunately, these things don't automatically make you a good footballer. You look at players like Dan James or Mykhailo Mudryk who are fast, but their dribbling might not be there, their end product might not be there, their footballing IQ might not be there, but they are fast. So they do cause problems with their speed, but the rest of their attributes aren't really up to par with how fast they are, and it means that they're not really that effective at the highest level. With both of them probably being at their best in international football, with Dan James for Wales and Mudryk obviously for Ukraine, and when it comes to club level, especially in the Premier League anyway, none of them really lit the league on fire, which is unfortunate. But yeah, so you've got his speed, you've got his strength, and obviously his long throw is another one of his positive qualities. It causes a lot of danger. Obviously, you saw Bellingham's overhead kick in the round of 16 of the Euros. All came from a Walker long throw. So, you know, he does have positives to his game. But unfortunately, these positives that I've just mentioned are heavily outweighed by the negatives that are about to follow, which are his defensive positioning is woeful. He defends way too narrow, right? So if he'll basically be holding hands with the centre-back that's next to him, the right-sided centre-back, which will probably be John Stones, right? John Stones does a lot of defensive cover for Kyle Walker when they play together. And he'll be basically next to Stones, and you've got a winger blitzing it down his side, down the left-hand side, and City's obviously right-hand side. And Walker will just slowly make his way out towards them, and then be like, oh, we're in a bit of danger here. So then he'll start sprinting, thinking, oh, I'm the fastest man on the planet. Like, you know, of course I'm going to be able to catch him. Bam, it's already too late. Cross comes in, shots off, and then we're potentially a goal down, right? It happens all the time. It even happened for Spain's second goal in the Euros final, right? It happened against Newcastle for Anthony Gordon's goal to make it 2-1 in the 3-2 win in De Bruyne's first game back. Also made a video on that game, actually. So yeah, you know, that is something that he is a repeat offender of doing. His defensive position is awful, and for someone that has been a fullback his whole career, I find it bizarre that he struggles to defend on the byline. And that, you know, he really is, like, relies on his pace too much, and he gets a bit too cocky and a bit too arrogant with how fast he actually is. And there have been many times where he's been caught out Even you look at the goal he conceded against Wigan in the FA Cup, and I want to say it was 2018 actually, for Will Grigg's goal. Walker lets the ball roll under his foot and then sees Will Grigg running. He's like, fine, I'll catch him. I'm Carl Walker, I'm the fastest man in the league. Doesn't get there. Will Grigg scores. Wigan win 1-0, and City are embarrassed in the FA Cup by Wigan once again. And you know, is a repeated theme of Carl Walker's game. Yes, his recovery pace is, you know, one of his better qualities, but it doesn't always work. And a lot of the time, his recovery pace, when it does work, is to for him to make up for an error that he made. And it's not usually to atone for an error one of his teammates has made or bail them out. Obviously, there are times where that's happened. His goal line clearance in the Community Shield against Liverpool, and he's made a goal line clearance against Chelsea, and I want to say it was 2020, I think. You know, there are times where he's done that in to bail out his teammates, but most of the time it is to recover from one of his mistakes, which, you know, isn't really acceptable, is it? He can only cross on his first touch, so if he's had to take a touch, right, he'll then have to take another touch and recycle the ball, because he can only cross first time, which is fair. There are a lot of fullbacks, a lot of wingers that can do that, right? But sometimes they will take the risk and cross on their second or their third touch. Not with Walker, no. He has to recycle the ball every single time. And even when he does get a cross off first time, it's not a good cross. Like, I could actually understand it and excuse it if his first time crossing was exceptional, but it's not. So it frustrates me even more. I'd rather him just put in a terrible cross first time, because I know that, like, is going to happen, right? And there's potential for us to get to the second ball and score. But when he recycles possession, I know full well that ball's going straight back out to him for him to do the exact same thing over and over again, until one of our midfielders decides, yeah, this isn't working, let's go to the other side of the pitch, or he loses possession. Happens all the time. And while we talk about Walker in the attacking third, let's talk about the fact that he can't shoot. He cannot shoot. And which is fine. Wing-backs aren't meant to be able to shoot. Full-backs aren't meant to be able to shoot. Defenders aren't meant to be the most prolific people in front of goal. But when you feel the need to take 40-yard long shots at least 3 times a match, you kind of need to have some finishing ability. And he doesn't. It's a P-roller every single time. It will hit a defender or go straight into the goalie's hands. Or if it's not a P-roller and he actually gets some power on it, there'll be too much power and it'll be lofted over the crossbar, because he's just not a good finisher. I can name 2 times where he scored from this technique: against Newcastle in 18-19 and against Sheffield United in 19-20. They're the only 2 times I can think of Carl Walker scoring. There might be more. I'm talking about for City anyway, not for Spurs or England or whatever, even though I don't think he's actually scored for England. I'll fact check that. But yeah, like, you know, let me know if there are other goals that he's scored for City using the same technique. But those are the only 2 that come to mind. That's 2 in, however many years he's been at City, like 7, 8 years. Like, that's not acceptable, especially seeing as he's taking these shots multiple times a game and multiple times a season for the same result. It's not going in, Carl. Give it a rest. He lacks concentration when defending. There's plenty of times where there's a lapse in concentration, which leads me into my next point. He doesn't track his man. There are multiple times where someone will go missing back post from a cross and the team scores. Rodrigo's goal in the Champions League quarterfinals in the second leg is a prime example. He just loses his man. Just doesn't check over his shoulders, doesn't check his mirrors. Bam, someone runs in behind him, scores. Happens all the time. It is frustrating, right? So, bam. That's his footballing ability out the way, right? And I can deal with that. You know, even though I've been vocal about it over the last few years, I can deal with him not being good at football, right? But when you're not good at football and then you become the captain of my football club and you're an embarrassing captain, that's where I draw the line, right? So let's start off with the first one, the easy one. There's bad PR off the pitch, right? He gets up to whatever he gets up to in his personal life and it's all over the papers, right? But that's not always a big deal. Look at John Terry, one of the most successful captains in the Premier League, right? He, you know, got up to some not very moral things in his personal life that ended up in the papers. But he was able to go on to be a strong, good leader for his team. So no matter what you thought of him off of the pitch, at least he was a good captain and helped Chelsea win a considerable amount of trophies. Yeah, well, Walker doesn't really have those redeeming qualities because he keeps making stupid statements in interviews about the club and his teammates, right? We'll talk about a few of them, right? So he says, and we'll start with the first two, which I think, there are many different ways to look at them, right? The first one is that he would trade all the trophies he won at City, or most of the trophies he won at City, just to win the Euros of England, right? And that's fair enough. He grew up wanting to play for England his whole life. He did not grow up wanting to play for Manchester City his whole life. Those things are facts, right? But you kind of, when you're the captain of a club, you kind of have to articulate that point a little bit better. Because, again, it just makes us look silly. Especially after he argued against Trent, saying that Liverpool trophy wins mean a lot more to their fans than and the players than our trophy wins mean to us. He has kind of fed into Trent's narrative there by making the claim that he'd rather win things with England than the club. Which, might be true, might not be true, okay? But he has fed into Trent's narrative there, despite, trying to disprove it. And obviously there's the Grealish one that he made about Grealish, him not being shocked that Grealish wasn't picked for the Euros because you're there off of merit and you're there off of how well you've played in the season and not just your name or what club you play for. Which is fair enough, right? That is true. And if anybody else said this, it would be completely fine, right? But Kyle Walker is the captain of the team that Jack Grealish plays for. Kyle Walker was also coming off of the back of his worst season for Manchester City. So if Kyle Walker actually thinks that he was in that England squad for any other reason than the fact that he's Kyle Walker and he's fast, then he's delusional, because he was coming off the worst season I've seen him play. So again, him being a hypocrite there, him not being very careful with his words. But, both of these ones are understandable, right? But this is where I get to the one that really annoys me. This one makes me angry on plenty of different levels. And when he said it, I actually could not believe my eyes. So, obviously, Manchester City lost the FA Cup final to Manchester United, who are obviously their local rivals, right? Kyle Walker was obviously the captain for Manchester City. And had to captain his team to an FA Cup final loss. He then, after the game, says, "Congratulations to Manchester United for winning that trophy. It's probably not been their best season, but hopefully that's some justification for some of my friends in there that have worked hard and dealt with a lot of stick recently." So, reading this as a fan, I'm obviously disappointed that we've just lost an FA Cup final. I'm even more disappointed that we've lost it to Manchester United of all teams, right? I then, expect my captain to come out and be like, "Oh, the boys tried their best. We're very disappointed with the result, but we will come back next season and be better, or we will go and beat them in the Community Shield." Something like that, something motivational. No, instead Walker comes out and says, "Okay, we might have lost, but my friends won the trophy, and I'm happy for my friends." I don't even know. I actually don't know what to say to that. If Liverpool lost a final to Manchester United or Everton, is Van Dijk gonna come out and be like, "Oh well, we lost, but at least one of my friends won a trophy"? Is Van Dijk gonna say that? Is Odegaard gonna say something similar if Arsenal were to lose? No, I don't think so. And if they did, I could understand full well their fans being outraged, because this is an awful thing for a captain to say. Vincent Kompany would definitely not have said anything like that. Fernandinho wouldn't have said anything like that. And Ilkay Gundogan wouldn't have said anything like that. Obviously, we had David Silva as our captain for a bit, but David Silva's, I feel like, a bit too shy to be a leader. I feel like he was only our captain because he was a long-standing servant for the club and it was his last season. I don't think he was in there for his leadership qualities. But the three main leaders we've had in the recent seasons under Pep as our captains would never have said anything like that. But Kyle Walker's different, isn't he? Kyle Walker's different. And it annoys me so much because we have a leadership team at City and it's been established, which involves Walker, De Bruyne, Rodri and Diaz. And I think all of those other names would be a better captain and a better role model than Kyle Walker. Obviously, De Bruyne was meant to be our captain, but he got injured against Burnley first game of the season, which led to Walker being the captain. And it looks like unless he's sold this season, Walker will be City's captain again. And, you know, I'm not looking forward to that, because after that disaster class of a season that he pulled off, and then as City captain, and then went on to be England's vice captain in the Euros, and was hands down the worst person in the England squad at the Euros, but somehow managed to get into the team of the tournament, I'm not looking forward to the football that he's going to produce in this upcoming season. And I'm less looking forward to some of the interviews that he's going to come out with, because I cannot be bothered to listen to him speak anymore or watch him play football. Like, he annoys me in every sense of him being at the club. He doesn't represent the club well off the pitch, always getting in the news for the wrong reasons. Then when he's the captain of the club, he comes out and with idiotic statements like that FA Cup final quote. And then when he's on the pitch, he will drop constant 5 out of 10 performances, and sometimes with a 6 out of 10 in there, and quite a few times being a 2 out of 10 in there. But, you know, you guys can let me know in the comments if I've been too harsh on Kyle here, and I'm just saying this because I've already got an agenda against him, or if I'm right and I've hit the nail on the head. Again, you know, I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong, and it looks like with that Liverpool video I made recently, it looks like I am potentially wrong, with you guys letting me know with your comments and the dislikes that you've left. So that video will be revisited either halfway through the season or at the end of the season, and we'll revisit that video and go over and talk about some of the main talking points that I made, and see if I was right or see if I was wrong, and you guys can listen to me admit that I was wrong. And maybe I'll even end up doing the same with this video, depending on how the season goes. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Kyle Walker as a captain and as a player. And if you're a City fan, let me know who you would prefer to be our captain in the upcoming season. Again, like the video if you enjoyed, and also like the video if you think Kyle Walker had a disgraceful Euros for England and he shouldn't have been in the team of the tournament. Obviously, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Your support is very much appreciated, and check out the rest of the videos on the channel if this is the first video of mine you're watching. But with all that being said, I've been Nathan. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Shut down cases, they belly dots to the can't see faces, chasing the bad guy chase it. You don't wanna be the one like Ace and like G-Take tryna turn them out wasted. Aye, tell a bad bitch come break it, body come mad, come shake it, then get back to the basics, bro, done shut down cases, they belly dots to the